Sometimes it's just too much stress, too much change, and just about anyone can get the wind knocked right out of them. But as I've grown, I've learned to lean into these moments and to say to myself, it's okay not to be okay. I sat down with psychologist Dr. Amir Ramezani to talk about these uncomfortable feelings and what to do to find your balance again. Dr. Ramezani is back. Look what I'm wearing today.
Oh, so cool.
Be
You're
a nice human.
Yes.
I need this in my life right now. I need this in my life, and I want to share it to everybody. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I feel like I need that, especially like on a Monday. You start off your day. Just
You know what? I feel like I think more than a few people need this right now.
oh my God.
I'm so happy you're back. I'm so happy you're back. And I thought about you over the weekend when I felt this wave of, I don't even know what to call it. It was just a wave that just knocked me right off of my stool. And I know you know what I'm talking about. And I know that I'm not the only one. Even people were messaging me and saying, you, but you're so happy. But you're so happy, but you're so positive. And I'm like, well, sweetheart, even the positive ones and the happy ones can get knocked off their box every once in a while. And I said, it is okay not to be okay. And I learned that from you.
Right. Oh yeah. It's so true. I mean, there's so much happening, and we're all human beings, and we're all just going through the same things together. Really.
This weekend in particular, um, I think there was a culmination of a lot of things happening. We had some unfortunate news that we heard from overseas with the execution of a young Olympic wrestler. We have fires burning up and down California. Um, 24 people lost their lives in this fire. We're still dealing with pandemic stuff. People are losing their jobs. The election is coming up, and it's just almost the feeling of everywhere you turn, there's just stuff. That's what I call it. It's stuff that's happening. And as I just mentioned, even the best of us and the ones who can try to weather it more than others, there are moments where it just becomes too much. And I wanted to take that opportunity and have that conversation about that anxiety and that overwhelmingness and the too much. It's too much. It really is. Am I making this up, or is this real?
I think we're all feeling it, especially in the world. So many tragic things have been happening all at the same time, and we're all, I think we all go through the same grieving. It's a universal grieving that's I think we're all experiencing together. So many tragic things, and when we're feeling it, I think it's helpful to know that it's not just us; it's all of us, that we're just sort of in this very scary situation that we're all sort of working through and moving forward with. But I think it's a universal feeling. I think a lot of us, I feel it too. I mean, I'm there with you, and we are just sort of going through the same kind of sadness and sorrow, and I think it's helpful to not only feel that, but also be able to give to feel well.
I often think about people who stressful COVID times. Like, I just feel like this year, 2020, has just given everybody a run for their money. But people who were dealing with the anxieties and the depressions and the sadness, the different mental health, all kinds of realms that they were already dealing with. And then this all came out, and it's almost like it'll shake you. And if you weren't grounded before, Not that any of us are. I mean, let's just be real. But if you weren't grounded before, this year would have really just rattled you up more so. And all these things are coming out that some may didn't even know like existed before, right? There's people who didn't even know that they were dealing with anxiety and depression. And this shift of everything that's happening right now is bringing that up to the surface.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, and it's very overwhelming. And when we're feeling this with everyone, that feeling of being overwhelmed, some of us we just try to resort to ways that we can cope that can help us. Sometimes we can try to cope that doesn't help us, and sometimes we just freeze. We're just kind of so overwhelmed that we're like, I don't really know what to do. I just need to stay right here. And when I'm in it too, just like and other folks, I need to sort of just kind of reground myself the way I need. A lot of times some folks need to ground themselves in different ways and cope in different ways. Sometimes they need support, sometimes they need to kind of recenter. But and I sometimes need to just kind of have some silence, just to kind of collect myself, and because I'm sort of everywhere, and I just need to collect myself, and then just take one step. If that step is just kind of attending to a loved one, or attending to something that I like to get done that brings me joy. So that's hard to do, and I'm not perfect at it. No, I don't think anyone is, but this is something that I think we want to try to first do before we do anything else. Otherwise, we're just on this autopilot. We're just kind of reacting, reflex mode, just kind of what's next, what do I do? And we're just going to burn out,
You talk about collecting yourself and having those moments of silence. And sometimes people take that silence of, let me sit in my room and open my phone and stroll and scroll through Instagram and Facebook and see what everybody else is doing. And you think that that's having a you moment. Dr. Ramezani, I did that over the weekend. And I'll tell you, after 30 minutes of being on there, I felt horrible. Just horrible. And it wasn't one thing in particular, but I had that moment saying, wait a minute, this can't be the best thing maybe at a time like this. There's a lot going on in here that could be making it worse.
Yeah, I think so. And that's sort of like the idea of like, how do we cope? Sometimes when we look at our phone, we're, let's backtrack a bit. Like I do the same thing, I'm on there, I'm like, oh, let me watch this video. And sometimes it makes me feel good. Sometimes I'm just like, ugh, I don't feel good anymore. But if we kind of, I think, and it's from my experience, and I think maybe you too, is when we sort of track it back, like it starts off by maybe something that we're feeling sad about or just not feeling good about. And then we try to cope. And then me and you we happen to reach for our phone. And that coping that we're doing in that moment, we're really, what we're doing is we're avoiding or we're disconnecting how we're feeling.
So the phone is, these things are ways to just, okay, I don't want to deal with this right now.
Exactly. It's kind of pushing it to the side. So when we're looking at the phone, there's a part of, at least this is what I sort of believe from my own experience, is there's a part of us that is really needing our attention to attend to. Sometimes when we're feeling certain ways, there's, we can either reach out to other people to feel well, we can reach out to our phone or external ways. But a lot of times I think we ourselves need to attend to that part of us that's not feeling good. So if we were to, and this is us just, as I'm talking about this, I want to practice this even more, So if I am able to, in that moment, just notice, oh man, I'm not feeling good. And the reason why is because I'm really avoiding a part of me. And what I need to do is I just need to actually attend to that part, care for that part, the way I know how to care for other people, just like yourself, how to care for a lot of people, and then be able to bring that caring towards that part of us. And I think that that helps us to begin to open to different possibilities of feeling better versus us kind of being on autopilot where we're like, I don't feel good, phone is in my hand already,
Yeah.
without even thinking about it. It's just like, boom, I'm already watching a video.
And the problem, and I'm sure you would agree to this, is that when that phone opens, yeah, you're excited, you see people cooking and you see people living their life, but somewhere in the back of your mind, whether we want to believe it or not, there's this comparison going on and this fight even for the best of us where our lives are a certain way, and this desire for things to be perfect right now and having to just let that go because that ain't happening.
Man, oh my gosh, we're so far from that. Oh boy.
I mean, like so far from it, like so far from it.
I mean, as I'm talking to you right now, my lungs are still hurting from the smoke.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You are in the thick of it with that fire right now.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, we are, I am, and so, a lot of other people. And so you're right. Like we're so far from what we want things to be like. And I think a lot of times that idea of like wanting things to be perfect, like we look at social media and we're like, oh, people have such perfect lives and I want to be like that person, and, or, and so forth. And it's a way, I think it's a way of us also disconnecting again from that part of us, because it's sort of like not accepting the reality of what is happening right now. The reality in that moment for me and you over the weekend is I'm not feeling good. That's the reality in that moment. But I may not want to accept that reality. So I will create a fantasy that is way better than reality. And that's perfectionism right there. The reality that I generate this perfect reality in this future when in the moment, that's not my reality.
Like I'm not okay.
Like, yeah.
I think like a light bulb went off.
I can see that. I can feel
You
that.
can see the light bulb went off, right? I went, but isn't that cool in life that you have those moments, that things that maybe you think you have known or you read about or you're like, oh yeah, I know that. But there are moments where that light bulb really goes on and you're like, oh, now I get it.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that's the thing with all this is that both of us and the viewers, we could read as much as we want about self-development and ways of coping. But I think when we're able to just experience it, like you just had an experience, which I'm really glad that when we're able to experience something with our own, emotions, thoughts, whatever is our reality in that moment, I think that's what creates a shift, because that's what really helps us to really see clearly what's going on.
Yeah, you need those experiences. And look how much what do they say with like maturity, the older you get, and the reason you learn so much the older you get is that you go through these experiences and you change and things happen. You're like, oh, okay, time to shift, change. And then something happens, time to shift, change. And that's what life is a series of, is a bunch of changes.
Yeah, it's a bunch of changes. Like even as we're talking about this, and our dialogue begins to make some sort of experience for us about how we're dealing with things, and hopefully for the viewers too. And I think it's that split second that is like, whoa, wait a minute. Here's my sadness, and here's my anxiety, but here's my bigger view of like what's really happening. And that bigger view is what helps us to kind of collect ourselves and get centered and move forward with our lives.
I know it's a lot easier said than done, and it truly is a practice to be able to understand. And it takes a lot to be able, as simple as it seems like a very simple concept. But the practice of it as a human being, I think it's a little more difficult to retain, or everybody would do it. Or everybody would do it because we get very consumed with the anxiety and work and kids and all these things. Like you have to put time into it. But for those people, including myself, and I've always been a huge fan. I am raw and I am open. And I share the experiences that happen in my life in hopes that that tells another mom or another person that you're not feeling good. Great. Neither am I. Because they will, oh my gosh, like even this weekend, you're the happiest person. How are you having a bad day? I'm like, really, girl? I'm human. Of course I'm having a bad day. But what can people like me, like others, do in those moments where you do feel that wave, where it does become too much, it becomes overwhelming, you don't feel good, you just don't feel good emotionally, and that leads into a physical response? What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many things that's I think available. I think that as I'm saying this, of course, is all for educational purposes, but I think there's so many things that we can do. But I think the real issue is not because you know what to do. Other people know. We're all sort of, at least as adults, we kind of know what makes us feel well. Like some of us, if we're not feeling good, having a moment of silence, or getting involved in art or music or something that brings us joy, or connecting with someone. So there's many things we can do, and I think as adults we already know how to do that. But I think the real issue is in the moments, like when we're in it, like when we're really like in that period, we're like overwhelmed, life is happening, the world is, it's apocalypse, and I think in that moment, having like a anchor to hold on to, because it's almost like we're in a storm, and it's chaos everywhere in our mind. Emotions are running, thoughts are going, stories are building up that are not true in our mind. We want perfection, we want fantasy, we cope by disconnecting. And I think in the chaos or in the storm of the mind, it's helpful to, like, in a sense, symbolically, like throw out an anchor into the sea to then kind of ground yourself or have a reference point. And I think, so that's just a sort of, I may have been too theoretical, but like a practical way is being like really bringing our attention to what's happening with our body, because our body naturally lets us know if we're feeling flooded emotionally, if we're feeling overwhelmed. So if we're able to like tune in and say, oh my gosh, like I'm feeling some heaviness in my chest, my gut, I'm kind of like, I think there's a lot of sensation in my gut, and I'm feeling a little bit anxious, or I'm feeling tense in my shoulders. That's a clue, and that's the anchor that we could follow. So we could bring our attention to that sensation and say, oh, you know what, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Being able to name it, or how, like one of my friends, he says, name it to tame it. So we find the sensation, we name it, like, oh gosh, I'm feeling stressed, or I'm feeling anxious. That alone, naming it, just kind of calms our nervous system down. And then being able to ground ourselves and collect ourselves, whether that's something like bringing our attention to our breathing, whether that's simply just kind of connecting with a person. And I think that helps to begin to regulate us in the middle of the storm. And then I think we're open to other possibilities of what we can do to really cope.
When you talk about perfectionism and going back to this phone, I've shared with, I don't call them followers, I've called everybody in my phone a friend. My husband thinks they're imaginary. I think he's starting to realize that they're real people in there. But I've always said, if you at any point don't feel motivated, don't feel happy, don't feel excited, don't feel enlightened, don't feel like you want to giggle, don't feel like there's a laugh coming on your face, as with me or anybody, to not surround yourself with energy that doesn't do good for you. Do you believe that that energy and that vibe that we give out to people, because when you're around anxious people, do you believe that that's contagious? Like anxiety is contagious when you're in a group of people that are already...
I just had this imagine of all these.
Well, I look at them that way, right? Like the anxious people, they're around you. It's like almost like Walking Dead. They come and get you and all they're
I have, yeah. So I have, so my first thought is like, when we're feeling a certain emotion, definitely another person feels it, whatever, anxiety, sadness, happiness, joy. So I believe that we're really made in a way where we can connect with other people. Sometimes when we connect, we really feel that person's emotion. If they're feeling anxious, we feel it and we're like, oh my gosh. Especially I think for folks who are very in tuned with people, they need to, I think, know, oh, I'm feeling anxious. This is not my anxiety. I'm going to put this to the side.
I need to say that out. This is not my anxiety.
Yeah.
This is not my anxiety. And then put it aside.
And well, in a sense, kind of put it aside so that I think the next thing is so that we can be like, wow, like this person may be feeling a lot of anxiety, and my gosh, I just empathize with this person.
But not make it your anxiety.
Exactly, yeah. That fine line is really differentiating your feeling from the other person's feeling is, I think, is very important. And then being able to bring some sort of kindness towards that person mentally or however else you generally do, that I think is healing for yourself, because you just carry the weight of someone's emotion, and I think for the other person. So I think that's important. And then I think that's like a day-to-day kind of life where we're interacting with folks. But I think there are some times where some folks who may not be aware of their own suffering, and their suffering consumes a person's life. It really does.
Yeah.
Like it just kind of, it's a very toxic relationship and abusive relationship. And I think that's when we need more sort of professional ideas to kind of come and play to help the person handle and navigate that kind of relationship. Because there are some folks who really need the other person to create chaos and toxicity.
Dr. Ramezani, I think we're in the middle of it right now. I think we went through the beginning of 2020. We're in September, and I think this is the middle. And I really do think in the next few months, it's going to get harder. I think it's going to get harder. What I mean by harder is that we're going to have a lot more challenges thrown our way that we are going to have to navigate through emotionally. We have a big election coming up. We're still dealing with, racial injustice, things that are happening throughout the world. We have a lot that's coming our way. The kids are still out of school, going back in school, maybe going to close down again. You have flu season headed our way. And then you have the holidays. That's already a stressful time for some. I know. I just want to.
I'm going to pick up my phone right now. I'm just going to move away.
Can I just go like hide under a blanket? 2021, I'll be back. January, I'll see you. What would be your best advice for people as we kind of buckle up for these changes that are coming in the next few months? With everything that we've learned I'm pretty amazed. For a lot of us, we've really done an amazing job, I think, being nimble and changing and adapting. Our kids, there's always good that comes with the bad. You have to have bad to know what good is. But how would you help prepare the mind the spirit, like to just get ready for this next wave?
Yeah. Emotionally, yeah. I think I totally agree with you, by the way. I think we've done such a great job, like just seeing the community just kind of grow, and folks kind of coming in and providing services, for free, and just really trying to help. I think it's very important that we're reminding each other that we're in a state of constant change. Not because there's excuses for other things, but because we all just need to be flexible right now to be able to help one another. So it would be completely unfair if we are using the same standard as before COVID to then apply to now. Because
I love that. Change the standards. Yes. Because with the standard, if you put the standard of before to the standard and you try to fit it in now, we're like all done. Like we're all done.
Yeah. I mean, there's no time. There's no way to do that. Everyone's trying to take care of their family. They're trying to get to work. Really, and I think I'm glad.
I just feel like I lost 10 pounds. Right? Sometimes you need to hear that. I mean, there's just words, but when you hear it and you hear it from the right person in the right moment, it's almost this like exhale. That's right.
That's what I think we need to, especially with the folks who maybe if it's at work and there's certain demands on us, we want to be able to communicate in an assertive way, not an aggressive or passive, but just in an assertive way, really saying, I'm happy to do this. I just want you to keep in mind that I'm doing my best, and we're also during this time, I'm trying to take care of other things. So just bear with me, have patience during this time. And I think that's a way of really communicating what we need. If we don't communicate that right now and request flexibility from other people, sometimes people are just on autopilot. They're just wanting to do the same thing over and over. And I think also just being able to take care of ourselves, being able to, not just because we're a lot of us are caring for a lot of people, family and other folks, but being able to really set aside time to engage in some sort of self-care that has creativity, joy, and this is a time where I think it's totally okay for us to begin to bring the focus inwards. Really, it's almost like we're in a historic time where we are demanded to have good emotion regulation skills to get through, good stress tolerance skills to get through, managing not just our own emotions, but managing other people and what they request of us in a friendly way, kind way, but yet assertive way. So, yeah. And I'm doing it with everyone too. So we're all in it together.
We are all in it together. I feel like you were my cup of tea and my croissant. I just had both right here in the past, 30 minutes. And I feel, look at my smile is back. I feel so much better. See what a conversation can do. Dr. Ramezani, high five to you through the computer. You are amazing. Thank you so much. See?
Yeah, nice to meet you. Yes.
It goes a long way. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to It Is What It Is with Shali Zomarodi. You can join in and ask your questions live on Shali's Facebook or Instagram page. You can find so much more by following Shali on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and by visiting shalD.com.